Hi everyone, I'm Senator Sharon Hewitt. It's Sunday, May 5th, and this is the Capitol Report. In this edition, I'd like to talk to you about the buzzsaw that I ran into this week with my seatbelt bill that I believe would help lower your car insurance rates. I'll also talk to you about many of the other bills that I have that are moving through the committee process, and then we'll wrap up with the update on teacher pay raises and the ramifications of those raises on the state budget. My seatbelt gag bill, Senate Bill 148, was heard this week in the Senate Judiciary Aid Committee, which is comprised primarily of lawyers. As you might recall, this bill would allow the judge to tell the jury if someone in an automobile accident was not wearing their seatbelt. Well, needless to say, this bill has not been very well received by the Judiciary Aid Committee. In fact, I brought this bill last year, and last year this committee worked really hard to get the bill assigned to their committee and then promptly killed it. This year, the chairman of the committee even amended my language onto another one of his bills, which in my opinion would move our tort reform system in the wrong direction as kind of a poison pill. That amended bill passed the committee with flying colors, and then they promptly walked out before voting on my bill. So the bill will get heard again this coming week on Tuesday. Tune in if you want to watch it live or see the reruns anytime. And we'll talk about it more next week in our next Capitol Report update. Other bills are moving successfully through the process and have passed through the committee and are now being debated on the Senate floor. One of the most important ones has to do with sexual harassment payments. As you might recall, 2 years ago, I asked the legislative auditor to do an audit so we could get an idea of the scope of problems that we have in the state of Louisiana with sexual harassment. He determined that we had spent $10.4 million in taxpayer dollars to settle over 80 claims over a 10-year period. What my bill will do is it will hold those harassers partially accountable for the financial settlements that are paid by the state on their behalf. It will also have some penalties to folks that are falsely accusing others of sexual harassment. And it will, thirdly, it will eliminate non-disclosure agreements from being used in these situations. I think that this is good policy, something that I've heard from many of you about, and I'm really excited to move these ideas forward and on to the House. Another bill that will be heard on the Senate floor this week will be my statutory dedication bill. As you know, this has been a 2-year effort on my part to eliminate dedicated funds from state government. We have about 400 dedicated funds, totaling about $7 billion out of a $10 billion state budget. Our total budget is $32 billion when you include federal funding, leaving the state, our legislators, only about $3 billion with which to prioritize the important work of our state, largely healthcare and higher education. So this bill will continue the effort to eliminate those dedicated funds so those entities don't get their money right off the top, but rather have to compete for funding and justify their need for funds along with everybody else. I'm also doing some work to help us here on the local level in St. Tammany with a bill that will provide some very important funding for the Harbor Center. Several of my bills have passed the Senate and are now awaiting action in the House. For example, the bill that requires newborn testing for spinal muscular atrophy. As you recall, early detection is critical for those children to get early treatment to live normal, healthy, happy lives. My bill on certified medication assistance, Senate Bill 51, would address a critical issue in our state and I believe around the country, and that is a shortage of certified medication assistants. These are folks that are trained to administer medicine in home and community-based settings for the disabled. And we had a residency requirement in Louisiana that was making it very difficult for us to address this shortage. So my bill will eliminate the residency requirement and hopefully put more of those trained folks working with the disabled where they're needed greatly. Finally, we passed a bill off the Senate floor that's headed to the House that addresses the part of the bureaucracy in state government. We're great about creating reports in the legislature and requiring the executive branch to deliver reports to us to the tune of about 550 reports every year. And my bill would have us sunset those reports every 5 years unless there was a need to continue them. I think this will free up staff to do more important and higher priority work. And when I'm not working on moving my own bills through the legislative process, of course, I'm serving on committees and voting on a number of other bills. Much of my work right now is in the Senate Finance Committee, where we have begun hearing testimony from all the agencies about their budgetary needs. One of the bills that we're going to hear this week will have to do with the teacher pay raises and the proposal to add additional funding to the minimum foundation program that would go directly to the school districts. While there's great support for teacher pay raises, there are some questions about whether we can afford to increase the money going directly to the school districts. Again, not because that they don't need the additional money, and we know that they haven't had increased funding in many, many years, but there are a number of needs in state government, and we'll have to examine all of those, I believe, in a holistic way and decide the best way to spend what little bit of money we have going forward. We'll also be voting on things that range all the way from the death penalty to whether feminine hygiene products and diapers should be exempt from sales tax. It's a crazy thing, and I work really hard. I want you to know every night in preparing to debate these bills and to represent to the best of my ability what I believe are your views. Many of you have also come to the Capitol to visit, and I've had an opportunity to sponsor resolutions recognizing and honoring groups such as the nurses, the tourist commissions, the oil and gas folks. This upcoming week we'll have NASA will be in the House. Many of the folks from the Michoud area will be there. We'll have the firemen and the Leadership North Shore and Leadership St. Tammany groups. So if you're in the neighborhood, let me know you're there. I love having you and really value your input. If you'd like to stay up to date with what's happening at the Capitol, the easiest thing to do is to go to SharonHewitt.com and put in your name and email address, and you'll get regular updates. There are also links to all of my social media, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Look forward to talking to you next week. Happy Cinco de Mayo.